Salam sejahtera to our viewers. Welcome to our new podcast channel brought to you by UM Research TV channel. So in this show, we will explore the groundbreaking innovations and cutting-edge research pioneered by our exceptional scientists and researchers here at UM. So I'm your host, Farah Hanan, and today we would like to welcome our guest, Professor Vengadesh from the Department of Physics, Faculty of Science. So he's a leading expert in the field of biophysics and molecular electronics, who has been at the forefront of this remarkable project titled eProfiler. So together, we will explore the journey behind the creation of this product, its potential impact, issues and challenges, as well as future outlook. So whether you're a seasoned professional, an avid enthusiast, or simply curious about UM's latest research advancements, stay tuned on UM Research TV and don't miss this episode. Okay, to start off, hi Prof, welcome to our
Thank
channel.
you for having me here. You can call me Dr. Venga. I
Okay.
prefer that because that has stuck on me for such a long time.
Yeah.
It's very weird when someone calls me Prof. Venga,
Oh, okay.
right?
Okay, so welcome Dr. Venga. So to start off, can you provide an introduction to the eProfiler?
Right, okay, so I think some of you may be aware through publications that we have done. eProfiler is a new method of trying to understand how biomolecules behave. That was the fundamental research. And in the course of trying to understand how they behave in electric fields and magnetic fields, for example, and observing something very remarkable in terms of its electronic response. Prior to this, we imagined that biomolecules are like insulators. They're not electronic materials. You can't be putting them in computers, handphones, and no way. People have heard about the word DNA diodes maybe, right?
Yeah.
But it's never going to be a real diode to be applied. So it's like not acceptable. This was the challenge previously. But what we observed, I think I started these experiments, very minor, small experiments, probably around 12, 13 years ago. I was always interested in biomolecules. I'm just giving you a background.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to understand biomolecules with what I was trained to do. I'm a solid-state physicist. And my understanding is that everything under the sun on our earth is made from molecules and atoms. Molecules and atoms has electrons and whatever charges, ions, even molecules, right?
Yeah.
So all this definitely means that it has some sort of an electronic properties, right? So that was basically the motivation. And when we actually put, for example, DNAs, nucleic acids, later on we start working with RNAs, right? We put them under a magnetic field or an electric field, right? And started observing them behaving very characteristic to their own base sequence, for example. And that's when the idea came that, oh my God, we could actually characterize them and maybe identify them by just looking at them, how they behave electronically. And the first observation that we did was super exciting. And we were like, is it true? Is this hypothesis that I just shared with you, is it true? And then we're like, okay, let's take this a little bit further. Let's change the DNAs. And we changed a few types of DNAs from mushrooms, for example. And then we observed their characters and realized that, my God, it's characteristic. So we're just like looking at each other and saying that, me and my students, did we just discover a new technique? And that resulted in our, actually the second Nature scientific report. Those days, this was in 2016. Those days, getting a scientific report paper is a big thing.
It still is, I think.
It's slightly less now, but it was a very big thing back then, and that was actually published because of the novelty of the method. And those signals that were characteristic to the type of DNAs that we reported, we started calling them later, maybe not at that point of time, but later on, we called them eProfiles, or stands for electronic profiles. That's the background of eProfiles.
So can you share a bit on how your research journey or academic background has led you to pursue this particular research project?
Well, I did explain a little bit about how we started, but like I said, my interest was trying to understand how biomolecules behave under electric field, magnetic field. This was the starting point. So obviously one of the first experiment was taking some sort of a DNA and putting them in a magnetic field and observing how they change. We tried to meet them with solid state parameters. Obviously Farah is a physics student, so you would understand, right? There are many types of solid state parameters, for example, barrier height, for example. We wanted to understand how are they very near or too far, right? So these are the basic fundamental research we studied out without anything much. But there was something inside me that said that if you understand electronics in biomolecules, you can do wonderful things. So now, based on all these research experiences that we got over the last 10, 12 years, I started my career in University of Malaya about 18 years ago. I was a degree student here, undergraduate here, I was a master student here, I was a PhD student here. So that means that saya tak pernah keluar UM lah. So there's this attachment to UM. Many challenges, of course, when you do some good stuff, right? Whether it's great or not, let's the future decide. But when we were doing this, I felt happy, and I thought that I found my research dream. And eventually, I told myself, eventually when I do find something remarkable, and if a technology comes out of it, and a product that is being commercialized, that glamour, whatever that is affiliated to that, should go to UM first. So despite many challenges along the way, of course, everybody has challenges, right? It's not only me. So doesn't make me special or not special, right? So everybody goes through hard times in their life. So that's not an excuse to stop giving back to where you were. So, I'll recall a Malay proverb for this. Bumi mana dipijak, langit di situ dijunjung, right? So under that same concept, I was brought up by a family of teachers. Both my sisters were teachers. One retired after about 40 years of service, one is about to retire 35 years. And my mother made sure that, she was so much interested in, very happy when you see that you are educating people. Of course, it's very typical for Malay parents, Chinese parents, Indian parents, any people from this part of this world. Of course, Sabah Sarawak, Kadazan, Sizan, you just talk to them. Their parents would be like, I wish my daughter and son is a doctor, or an engineer, or a lawyer, right? So this is a typical mindset. But my mom, of course, she had all these ideas too, but she also said, as long as you're productive and you impart your knowledge to students. So when I chose this career, of course, my mom is a typical Indian, so she said, you must do medicine, which I'm not interested at all, and I probably wouldn't have enough marks for that too, right? So this is the past story. But I'm glad that I didn't have enough marks because I didn't want to end up becoming a doctor or something to do with medical research. But as I was saying, I really wanted to do something in medical technology. And that being a doctor is not the answer for me. I would hate it, right? I adore people who work in the hospitals and how much they are pushed to the limit. We understand that, but it is not my way of life. I would enjoy. I think I'm a workaholic. If I need to, I can push and work, and I enjoy it. So I thought I wanted to be a scientist. And I always wanted to be a scientist from the day I could speak. That's what my mom used to say. And then if somebody asked me, what do you want to be? I'll say a scientist. But if they ask me what does it mean, I don't know. So coming back to this, therefore, this set the platform, coming back to your question, this somehow or other kind of brainwashed me, right? Made me ready for a world of definitely university. You have to come to university to do your PGs, right? I did my masters. May have had chances to go overseas, but somehow or other that patriotism that was in me didn't allow me to go. And everyone was saying that if you were outside, you have more resources. To a certain extent, people would also say that, people can appreciate you better. But that doesn't matter. See, we go anywhere, there's always challenges in any country you live. And this is first and foremost, this is a place that I was put in. And if you all believe in God, we all believe in God, there must be a reason why God put us here, right? Yeah. So I told them that no, whatever it is, I will do my masters here, I will do my PhD here. And if I get a chance, actually I never dreamt of working in UM. Never dreamt of working in UM.
Wow.
If you allow me, I'm going to also acknowledge someone who was very important bringing me here. I wanted to do a PhD definitely. When I first started working from College 8, that was the first year I was there, to Faculty of Science, I made a drawing on my, what is that paper with that board, right? Whatever, the foolscape paper, whatever, right? Those days we had a big notebook, something like that. I drew an image of me walking with a cap because I used to wear a cap. I sample saja. I'm not a formal guy. It's very informal. So I wrote, and in my mind I was like BSc, MSc, PhD, all A's. Of course I didn't get all A's lah. Some A's lah.
But
right?
the dream is
But
there.
the dream was there. So that's how I headed to Faculty of Science, and I never thought that I will start working in UM until the last day. I did my PhD. I finished my PhD. 1 or 2 days later, my supervisor, I'm sure you know, ex-supervisor, Prof. Haliza, came up to me and said, Venga, do you want to apply for a job to work here? I was speechless for probably for a few minutes. And I was like, Venga, you're interested, right? Of course, bro. That was the first time I ever thought that I will work in UM. I wanted to do something and end up as a scientist, but I never had the idea that I'll actually end up staying probably until I retire in UM. Right? So that part was to Prof. And when she put me in, I first was a RA to her. After my PhD, said we have some funding, continue working. I think I worked for 2 or 3 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks, maybe not 2-3 days. I can't quite remember, but I know. I wrote it down. I used to have a diary all this time. And then 2 weeks later, she said this. She asked me this question. You know where it was? Between the block A and block C, there's a drawbridge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, drawbridge, block.
Yeah.
Salah. That connecting bridge.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle there. That's where she asked.
Very near her office.
Yes, that time. Now she's actually in the block A. Those days it was there. So that's where it started. So therefore, obviously, my research was into what I wanted to do. Medical things, maybe to cater for my mom's, whatever. She's very proud of me, of course, right now. Parents are always like that. They set a lot of conditions, not because of anything, because they want the best for your kids. And we should understand. Maybe they get this a bit not clear, but no sane parents will mean harm for their kids, right? However hard or whatever they are. So obviously, that research became very fundamental to me when she asked me to join her group. Then I started working, and that's where probably the first chance came. So I will always acknowledge her for that, otherwise I won't be sitting here talking to you about eProfiler. I hope that answered a little bit. I talked a bit too much, right?
No, it's okay. So I find it interesting how essentially your life circles back to and you end up in a place that's a mix of what you want and what your mother wants.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you explained a bit about your project, the eProfiler. So how do you envision this technology impacting the field of medical diagnosis?
Of course, we must first understand what it does. And being a physicist, I'm sure you will comply with this too, because you are a physicist too. Hopefully you are also in academics soon, okay? Physicist looks at things in a very analytical manner. There must be something that governs how they behave. And if you can understand how they are governed by certain environmental parameters, like I said, electric field, magnetic field, right? We will understand how they work. We can come up with a lot of, theories, rules, whatever. And you could actually then design a sensor that would accordingly extract these parameters, which changes using a trend. So you are somehow or other looking at how nature works on your body, for example, and how does all these signals inside your body tells our mind something about yourself, right? It's a lot of biosensing happening inside your body. Did you realize that? So the best biosensors in the world are always done by evolution, because we've gone through millions of years of evolution, and what you have now is maybe not the fastest biosensors, but they are the most perfect nature has given you, because they've gone through probably millions of years of evolution. Use that idea now, right? And then using that, you would want to change this into something that works for us. So you're manipulating these ideas to give you a sensor that actually works. Now, once that I put this background, these fundamentals of what really this is, how do you approach a thing, right? Then you look at how does this solve the current problem.
Yeah.
We physicists are very humble people. Because if you study more and more of physics, you don't become more knowledgeable. You start realizing that there's a lot more in the world that you don't understand, right? That's the dilemma in physics. You find an answer, yes, you answer the question, but then you come up with 10 different questions, and you're like, okay, my lifetime is not enough. So what we do is that we find problems with other fields, for example, biology and medicine. The most impactful field is, of course, medical, because it impacts the lives of humans and animals and even trees and whatnot that lives in the world. So they are all the same. Like I said, they are fundamentally made from atoms and molecules. Whether you're dealing with inorganic or organic material does not matter. They are fundamentally at the grassroots molecules and atoms, which are electrons, ions, something that carries a charge, right?
Yeah.
So if you can chart this movement of charges, you could come up with what I call as a electronic map, right? That electronic map, not surprisingly, because I've done this in inorganic electronic materials, not surprisingly, they are very characteristic to what you are actually looking at. Now, what is the most important impact? Back to your question, now that you understand this basic background. For example, I want to chart the progress of cancer cells. We know a lot about cancer cells, but most of it are traditional views, conventional views, which are correct, but not sufficient. You have to add another factor that so far the majority of researchers, people working in life sciences have resisted. Now they're having a change of mind, right? What is it? Of course, the electronic profiles of this material. For example, everybody knows this. Nobody argues about cancer cells being the most electronically active cells, because they are so active. They're much more active than your normal cells, your healthy cells. That's why they can overcome and they grow out of control. People look at it in terms of biology and chemistry. But the underlying fundamentals are always at the grassroots, which is atoms and molecules, which is only, probably, I'm just using the word only with because I do not know more than that. It is predominant, let's say predominantly, scientists will never say always, okay, yes, no, we'll never say that, right? Especially physicists will never say that. So it's probably predominantly charge transfer mechanisms. So what I'm trying to say here is that all the other sciences, biological approach, medical approach, chemical approach, they're all intertwined, they have some solution, biochemistry, electrochemistry, all these are the current standards, golden standards. Whatever techniques that they do use in the lab to find out something about your blood profile are all chemistry, electrochemistry, biochemistry, right? So this looks at the higher level. So this is where all your errors come from, because they can't capture the signal down here. Because all this while we've been taught that diagnosis, for example, or screening, basically, it all is here. Something has to react to give a signal. And we are so drawn to this idea that we resist any change, any different opinion. So what they do is that they actually try to understand these processes here, which works. Of course it works. It works for the last 300-400 years since modern science came into the picture, correct? But there is always a limitation when you always study the topmost layer, because you can't get to the level down here. This is all biology. A lot of biologists and chemistry will probably be angry with me, but this is all biology and chemistry, but the underlying process is always physics, or a bit more clearer, electronics. So now, this is all the technologies that you have right now. Everything works well, but it broke down when we had COVID. Limitations was there. It takes weeks to, days, probably hours, or not enough. Still, too many people coming in. So our system of medical diagnostic, for example, has reached its limit. We see the bottleneck there. It still works. But are we ready for the next epidemic? Should it happen? Of course, we hope it doesn't happen. But, we have realized that this is not the only solution. Now, come back to this question that you asked. Now, what is the impact? Now, you imagine, if I go at that very basic fundamental level, which is charge, we now call it, in our group, we have this term, direct measurement. All this here is indirect measurement. Indirect measurement basically means we have defined it ourselves. When you have species A, species B reacting, that reaction gives you a signal. That is what is the current state of golden standards. Now let's go down there. It's the basic signals you're capturing. Of course, for that you have to build the most perfect, one of the most perfect. Right now maybe the one I have is not the most perfect, but it's the most working. A sensor. You know, you probably have seen the eProfiler, the 3T and the 2T sensor. That is basically a solid state sensor that works in very effectively absorbing these signals, right? And being able to portray the real, remember the electronic map that I was talking about. And now, just imagine, what happens now? You have changed electrochemistry and biochemistry into pure electronic signals at the most, I won't say most again, because we don't know what are the layers down there. You know, when you open an atom, before this you just know electrons and neutrons and nucleus, whatever. You start breaking, you see some more and more. So I'm at the lowest level right now, right? So at that level, it means that it's pure electronic signals. And you know what has happened since World War II, from 70s, since Richard Feynman talked about there's more space at the bottom. From then to now, look at our electronics. Can our grandfathers imagine something like this?
No, probably.
Managing your life. Anyone could, and not anyone cannot imagine these things. Why? It was made possible by the knowledge that we gathered looking at nanomaterials, nanotechnology, right? So we now look at a way of understanding this, let's say viruses, bacteria, cancer cells, you know, whatever cell that invades your body. Example, that's not limited to that. In terms of how they respond electrically. For example, I have a cancer cell that is being treated. The doctors wants to do a very rapid, let's say, point of care, real-time monitoring. How does the cancer cell die while you are putting some chemo drug or whatever? Do you want to observe it electronically? You can. What happens is that when the cell is really bad, you see a profile that is very characteristic to a very healthy cancer cell. And when you give the drug, it starts dying, you start to get different, as we call it, different state of electronics. That means you're getting different eProfiles for each situation. So this is one of the most impactful research area. What do you call it? Damage and repair mechanism, drug delivery. That's one of it. One of the examples.
Wow. Okay,
so that answers the question about what the impact is. And the most happiest part that I would love to share here is that this is a totally made in UM in Malaysia technology. We did not get this idea from anywhere from outside. So that's why I initially said that patriotism has stopped me leaving UM, because it's not only patriotism, to be fair. I really wanted to make sure that this technology is accepted, product comes out, not after I shifted to another university.
I see.
I wanted to do it here. And that somehow or other is something also what my mom told me. My mom, when we were growing up, she used to tell me that, you know, when you do things correctly, you don't have to worry about money and finance. It will come. So don't go for money and finance thinking that you'll be happy. You won't. So try to do something that will actually make other people appreciative of you. And then the rest of it will come. You don't have to be the world's richest man. As long as you're financially free, you're fine. Right? This is what my mom said. And when I entered UM, she was very proud. She forgot her dream about me being a doctor actually. She was super proud. And she said that, you know, whatever you do, money is always not even secondary. You never leave this university. Even if they want to pay you 3 times, 10 times outside, never leave this university. That's what my mom said. And this she said when I first joined the department. And I still remember that. And she also told me that you always be loyal to people who bring you in. That's the most important thing actually. So that is why whenever I go anywhere, I always talk about Prof. Analiza. Like I said, again, I repeat this because I'm so, what do you say that? Terhutang budi dengan beliau, you know. Sebab without her, I probably would have ended up in some private universities maybe. That's the closest, right? And I like teaching because as I told you, my sisters are teachers and all that. But as we get older, I want to do more research. I don't want to say it in UM because I'm supposed tugas hakiki masih lagi pengajaran. I love teaching. I love teaching my material, my subject, which is an expert. If they ask me to teach something else, mathematics lah, not really lah, but I can teach. But if I'm supposed to teach, for example, solid-state physics, semiconductor physics, or this new course that we come up with in future, let's say eProfiling, whatever, I love it because it's sharing of knowledge.
Yeah, that will be something you will be really good at. So
Yes.
that will be a great.
I won't say that I will be really good at, because as a physicist, I understand that I have answered a few questions, and I've actually started a spin-off company, and then hopefully things have been delayed. Things are not in my control at all. When you put it out into the market, the economy decides a lot of stuff. But hopefully, God willing, we have a plan to get our launch by September. I do not know whether again this will happen. It might be delayed because a lot of reasons, I'm not in control of that.
Yeah.
But I hope and I wish that this is the time God allows me to do that. So, well, yeah, I'm excited that that thing is coming out and it is going to work. And my thing that I told you just now, I wanted it to happen while I am here in the university, and whatever may have gone through, I have gone through the challenges. End of the day, as they say, untuk UM juga, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I think you mentioned a bit about your startup company. Would you like to elaborate on your company to the audience?
Right. To be honest, I always wanted to be an academic. So initially, when we had this, not really a prototype, like it's a working benchtop model. We took part in competitions. There's Tech Planter Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
We were the national champions. Then we went to Singapore. We got this award called Mitsui Chemical Awards. We were approached by the company later on. We had a lot of discussions, but I just wanted something that people understand. The aspiration of this whole thing is not to make money. Right? Of course, working with I worked with the Japanese. I actually was introduced to a Japanese company by actually a company in UK, which actually asked the Japanese company to come over and discuss how they could develop this technology further. This was way back in 2017, 18, I presume. And then when they came, the founder of the company now is my best friend, one of my best friends. But we didn't follow up with that company yet because a lot of issues came up in between. Like I said, challenges. Everybody will have their own story, right?
Yeah.
Nobody should complain anything in life, because when you're born as a human being, you will go through a lot of really tough stuff. It's just how you persevere through without forgetting what you really want to aim at the end. That's the most important thing. That's what I think is the ultimate lah. If you start complaining, you should understand that one day you will be like, sudah tenggelam dalam that thing. You won't excel. You will full of hatred inside, right? So coming back to this story, so that didn't go through because something in me said that it won't work. And then I had people coming in, and then it didn't work. No one working, and then I had some health issues, and I had my doctor telling me that you have to take a break, and that was probably 2018 to 2020, where I was a bit inactive because the doctor basically said if you push this further on, it might even endanger your life, right? I had some heart issues, which that point of time I stopped taking students, and I did not tell many people. Obviously, that's some issue coming out from there. But like I said, it's just challenges, right? I always knew that I'm going to continue back. Then I went somewhere else out of this country, and someone out of the blue, when they looked at what I was doing, and he told me a few things. An European guy, very old gentleman who's an inventor himself, he told me that you have actually really come up with a very remarkable thing. Be careful with whom you talk to, right? And he gave me some advice, and he also told me this one thing that still holds in my head. He said, if you really think that this is what you want to really do, and you think that it is going to impact the whole world, then you should start a company. This is where it all started. Right. I think that was not 2020, that was 2018. We went for a Geneva conference. We didn't get a gold medal, we got a silver medal because nobody wanted to really believe what we were doing. There was one person who was very supportive, Another person said to say he was a biologist.
Oh.
Was totally against, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. Not to blame her, because people are so into their own box. They're very good, they must be very good fundamentalists, but very fundamental knowledge doesn't really give you out of box thinking.
Yeah.
You have to be a bit crazy. You cannot be too smart.
Yeah.
I'm not too smart. That is why I can probably think out of the box, maybe. So, but then that guy told me that, and then I realized, okay, that's it. And then 2019, I was trying to understand how I can gain these entrepreneur skills. And then 2020, I think, just before COVID started, the DVC back then asked me suggested to me that why don't you go take part in this, they call it as Leaders in Innovation Fellowship. It was organized by the Royal Academy of Engineering UK. It is an entrepreneurship workshop that would be held like about 2 weeks plus in London. So I applied and I got that. So when I went there, my whole life changed. And I realized that I for the first time sat and looked at all these people sitting in front, mostly, probably 99.99% were all academics.
Wow.
And then when I presented my ideas and I talked to them, they were looking at, every innovation is creative. This is all out of the box thing. But when we talked about this idea for the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who can understand what I was talking about. And they realized that, we are coming up with small solutions, water purity, things like that here and there.
Yeah.
It's very important for our country. They came from different parts of the world. But what you have just presented is a very platform technology. I never knew what is a platform technology. I didn't know what's the definition of platform technology. I learned from them actually. Platform technology basically means, like, for example, you have iOS, the operating system of Apple, and Windows, that you fit to any computers and they will still make a living, right? Make business. A platform technology is something that fits into every other aspect, and still it will remain the core technology. It can be applied in many applications, not just one. So that's when I started realizing the real impact of it. Before that, I knew what it meant, but it's more of an academic thing. I was not sure about a lot of stuff. And also I need to name one person who was my advisor for the last 10, 12 years. Someone from Tokyo Institute of Technology, Prof. Iwamoto, who is probably one of the most high-end solid-state physicists in the world. You probably you can find books written by him. He was my personal mentor. And every time I had a doubt, I call him up and I talk to him and he advises me. Right? And he also told me this one thing. Most of us will work until our end, and we'll be working, we'll be contributing. We won't make a big significance to anything. But what you have done is that you have discovered something that probably will keep you occupied with it until the last day. He said that. So I think you're going to work on this forever. And this he said when he visited Faculty of Science. I think he was the academic icon once. So he was with us in LDMRC, maybe 2015, 2014. Even those times we were not even having a lot of devices, just some basic ideas. He told me that. And I still also remember that. So then when we came back, when I had this experience, and I thought, yes, I'm going to start it. And then we came up, and then COVID came. 2 years, we can't really move much. And then one of the persons who I met in that LIF, one of the mentors, he was my mentor actually. He contacted me and said, Venga, why don't we start something together? This is a very good technology. I'll help you, I'll assist you. And he's one of my co-founders right now. He introduced another guy also from UK, who is an excellent chief operating officer. He is an amazing person with a lot of experience, and he is like an asset. And then I have another person who was a part of my research team, who is a molecular biologist. So we need a molecular biologist. So together with me, 4 of us, we are the co-founders of the company. We approached UM saying that we wanted to start a spin-off, because that's the best way I could give back to UM. I don't want a separate company. I told them conditionally that it won't be a separate company. We're going to license the patent from UM because they are the owners of the patent, and I want UM to be involved. So one way is spin-off. So that is the background history of how eProfiler Solutions UK. The company is actually not based in Malaysia. The HQ is in UK, and we have a subsidiary company here, eProfiler Solutions Malaysia's new lab, which is in UMX building office.
Okay, so yeah, so thank you for sharing.
Sorry, I'm an academic, so your questions are not, my answers to your questions are not short.
Yeah,
I do realize that.
No, it's okay.
I hope it's not boring.
No. So I think it's good that because you give a lot of insights from your like a life full of
That shows that I'm from a teacher's family.
Yeah, so because my parents are also lecturers, so
Yeah.
I understand this
Thank you.
Okay, so yes, I think you share a bit about how this technology is being used, but can you share a bit more examples of how this technology is being utilized in some real world scenarios?
Right, okay. We have been running a lot of validation works around the world, and well, I'll share some of the works. Mostly have not been published because the moment you enter, become an entrepreneur, you have your spin-off company. There's a lot of IP issues that you need to look into.
Yeah.
You cannot publish something, for example, before launching the device. We would love to publish a lot of stuff too, because that's also credibility to the product that you're going to launch. But it's a trade-off. So as an academic, I want to publish everything that I did.
Yeah.
But I can tell you something about how we did some cancer studies, breast cancer studies. I think recall mention the name of the collaborator from Taylor's University, sorry. And interestingly, we could, like I said, it's an electronic method, right? You don't need hours, weeks, right? As in the normal thing, it's very expensive. All those things, because it's basically specialized chemicals, dyes, whatever they use, right? Lab services. This is just a small sensor, a chip that is the cost is probably less than a few ringgits, right? And then within 5 minutes, because we are looking at electronic signals, which is probably in microseconds, right? Nature is not fast, Nature is slow but perfect. If you look at nanotechnology projects that you are doing, you're looking at nanoseconds, even femtoseconds. But those are inorganic materials that you're manipulating usage. And they're inorganic materials, obviously. But nature is not that fast, but it's perfect. So, not too much of a problem there, right? So, sorry, forgot the question.
The question is how would you can you share on some?
Yeah, okay, sorry. So looking at these cancerous cells with the right technology that we're employing right now, it's not that tedious, right? So of course you want a faster process, but it's microseconds. What's the big deal? So within 5 minutes, we were able to differentiate between two different states of a healthy cell and a state with cancerous cell. So that's a big finding. And this is a new method, I think. Yeah, obviously it's a new method. And after 12 years of doing it, I know. I can't be wrong on that, So it's a new method that I think will be very impactful, because not only in terms of delivering an answer fast, but it's also in terms of how much people can afford. This is one of the reasons why I did not allow many companies to come and take over, because I wanted to control the price so that the price is as low as possible, that it could fit to most people. So I am not thinking about a niche technology that I monopolize and only get the richest to buy so that I become like Bill Gates. Right? No, that's not the intention at all. That is why I disagreed with a lot of people who were actually working with me earlier, those challenges that I was talking about. And of course, being the inventor, the person who found this out, I have all the rights to say, no, this doesn't work. Right? So, that's one. For example, some case studies that we have not yet worked but talked about is when in rural areas like in Africa, for example, mammograms are there. Kenya is not bad. Let's not stereotype anyone. Some African countries are very well to do, right? But the thing is that people are still poor in any part of the world, even in Malaysia, right? So some people living very far off from Nairobi, for example, like 500, 600 kilometers, they won't be able to go as they wish to do a mammogram to check whether there is a lump that is cancerous. Logics. we were working with a oncologist there, and his challenge was that you have to go to these areas and you have to find out from the symptoms and bring them all or whoever they suspect to Nairobi to get this test done so that confirm whether they have breast cancer. So it doesn't work because it'll miss a lot of people, and it's costly, and these people don't want to go. So he used to do a biopsy, a long needle poke into, and then that lump could be a normal lump, it's lipid lump maybe, or a cancerous lump. So he used to take that material off, go back to Nairobi, do a test and confirm whether it's cancer. So he asked me, can you provide a solution for that? That eProfiler's best job is there. So that device is very small, what we have now. It is connected to the net. All analysis is done there. It returns an answer based on profiles that you have acquired earlier. It matches the profile. And if the profile matches the profile within the range or spectrum of these cancerous cells, it tells you that this is the cell that you're looking for. Or otherwise, it says that no, this is off. So whoever you could be identified as having this cancer cell, you could take them to Nairobi. So that's one of the social impact projects that we want to do. You can also do it in Malaysia. When you look at very rural areas in Malaysia, mammograms are very expensive, very big. You can't fit it in all hospitals. So this is where I think this device will be used. Real life situations, but of course these are validation studies. We have done numerous other works. We have done viability of stem cells, for example, also not published, right? But we hope to publish it very soon. For example, if you look at how do you say that? How active are your vaccines before injection? How viable are your stem cells before you inject? Stem cells are the next generation therapy, which is super amazing. But only those who are higher up with lots of money, tahap maharaja lah tu kan, right? Other normal people like you and me can't afford it. Why? Because the process is very expensive and they're keeping a niche on that. But to lower the price, you need something that the process itself becomes cheaper. One of it is in terms of purification tests. If you want to look at different stages of the stem cell, the identification is very hard, very complicated, uses a very big machine called flow cytometry. Test is in thousands. This is probably few ringgits. So we lower down the cost, and plus, right now if you are so rich and you afford 30,000 to 60,000, what I know, per shot, and usually it's 2 times a year. Can you imagine how rich you should be? If you are so rich and you do not know what's the quality of the cell, that's just sheer foolishness. However rich I may get, I would never waste that much of money. So I need a point of care device, not the flow cytometry, which is huge, right? That is just next to the doctor, a test sample, runs a test, run a viability test, and tell you how many percent of the cells are, how many millions of these cells are still alive. It is 90%, 95%, good, inject. These are some of the case studies we're doing and we have done.
So I think you've achieved quite a lot with your with this technology. So can you share on your future plans or like future projects that you would like to get involved in with this technology?
Well, there is 2 different aspects to this. In the company, my position is Chief Product Officer. Therefore, I am affiliated with the University of Malaya where my research lab is. The research lab will be the central R&D lab for new technologies in the future. We have a few things around the line. Some of it has been patented but not changed into product. We're going to launch 2 products hopefully. One called eProfiler L, one is called eProfiler S. One is an electronic sensor that we were talking about all this while. Another one is an electrochemical sensor, which is lain dari yang lain. So if you talk about electrochemical sensor, you talk about a potentiometer with 3 physical electrodes, like long things. Nothing to do with that. It's just a small chip right now, and it does the work of a potentiometer probably many times better than the real potentiometer. So feels like very high-end science, right? No, actually it is very high research findings, and you get very excited with it and you push the limit, it looks easy, but there's a lot of things to be explained there. There's 2 devices.
Yeah.
We have other devices coming up. So we want to introduce at least one new device based on a new technology or modified technology every year or so. This is the plan.
Okay.
So the future looks like that, but I am an academic and probably will be here, and I will be doing work with my students working on this. And if the company comes up quite well and can support itself very well, probably industrial PhD students. This is one of the ideas. So this is as an academic, as a researcher, and also now a CPO of a company. This is how I'm trying to align everything together. And as I said, this is a spin-off of UM. UM has its interest in this, adalah kepentingan UM di situ. So it makes it more logical for eProfiler, UM, me as the one in the center, part of eProfiler, always hopefully part of UM, right? Unless they kick me out. so always a part of UM to actually have this synergy created very well, so that we do the best for the nation. Of course, I want to be do something for UM because, like I said, I've been here since 1994. Never left, right? So I want to do something for UM. But what is the basic objective of UM existing as an institution of higher learning in Malaysia is to be creating productive graduates for the country. So I think, pendek kata, it always goes back to the country, right?
Yeah.
That's really the reason why that pepatah bahasa Melayu, bumi mana dipijak, langit di situ dijunjung. So that's the intipati itulah yang kita perlu hafal. Every student should be told that. Right now tengah pijak bumi UM. Junjunglah langit kat UM. So that's roughly the direction.
I see. So I think it's interesting that you, how you are very attached to
This is my life. My amazing thing about my family is that I will have to talk about my family and those close ones around me. My mom and my sisters especially, and my brother, they simply said, don't worry about the family. Go chase your dreams. And they have let me off since I told them that I'm going to do my master's. I want to do my PhD and I want to become a scientist. And for whatever reason, I've been put in a family that did not even give me an ounce of, family responsibility things. Because they said, no, you are for research. Do your best for your place of your belonging. This is the place of my belonging, right? My mom said, whatever said and done, never leave UM for money. I keep that. So I will always be affiliated with UM and I'm very proud of it. Despite all the challenges, it doesn't seem big for me simply because I love UM more.
Yeah. So okay. So I think we're coming to nearer to the end of this podcast. So there are a little bit more questions. So, what excites you the most about the potential applications of the eProfiler in the field of biomedical science?
Right. I was always brought up in a way that before you go off, before your time comes, you must be able to go while people around you, in a way, like it's not, don't take it very literally. But what it means is that when you come in, people are so happy, they laugh, they cry as a baby, right? That's the ideal situation. Not all babies can have that, right? Normal people, normal family, most of us are like that. So we are gifted. But when you go off, make sure that nobody still laughs and smiles and finally this guy is gone. This is my motive in life. So I would love to go when it's time. I would like to go happy and contented, as they say, can. And a lot of people, not cry literally, they are sad that you're gone. And I think that is most relevant when you contribute back to your country and country appreciates you. And when the day comes, of course, everyone will go. The country mourns for you in a certain sense. And I think that's the biggest thing that someone can feel the achievement. So teachers, for example, my sisters, I know how they're dedicated, how much they work, how much they bring back to work. They have a lot of things to say too, but they never complain when it comes to doing their job. So being an academic here, I'm also kind of a teacher, especially in terms of this technology. I would love to have the new generation, young people, right? I'm done with old people. Very fixed mind, not out of the box thing. You need a fresh attitude to life if you want to do something great for the country. Young minds, I wish they could understand this more and be the next torch bearers, as you say. And that could be what I could summarize, like, if you wanted to ask me that question.
I see. So what are the key takeaways or messages that you hope listeners will get from this?
Well,
session?
let's go back to physics, okay?
Okay.
Life is all about electronics, number one. Second is semiconductivity. A is the real secret of life, right? One more, I forgot. Let me check. I'm so sorry. That is the most important thing, but my mind is just like, wait, sorry. Right. Okay, this is a keyword, the original keyword, that's why I probably forgot. I said life is electronics, right? Well, if you just extend it generally, it's just the word electronics of biomolecules. It's like a keyword. This probably is the takeaway. But I don't have to explain anything. The moment you look at electronics and life, biomolecules and electronics, and why did I say semiconductivity is the real secret of life? That's probably another topic, another day, when I have more answers to that question.
So for the last question of this session, so do you have any final thoughts or insights you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, this could be general. Like I said, everybody have their challenges in life. When you're born into this world, you cannot escape all these things. The best humans forward are people, I think, right, from my limited knowledge of life, I think the best humans forward, living forward, are humans who, while having all these challenges and sufferings, disasters, you name it, would still be able to go on with their life, contributing positively to their community and the country. This is part of your life. It is very difficult. Yes, I understand, what is more horrible than the death of your loved ones, for example, right? Personal disasters can even be taken, but that is unimaginable, right? But yet, that's something in us as a human who is like wise, are people who can still carry out their responsibilities while also mourning all this thing, going through all the hard things, never turn into a person full of hatred, because end of the day, I told you right before we go off, people should be appreciating for the life that you have lived, and always be, as I say, be pleasant to others. Do not let this part of your negative thing influence you, and you show that there's something called as a garbage truck syndrome. You throw your rubbish onto other people. Probably most of us do that. Probably I have done that in the future. Maybe I'm still doing it a little bit now, but eventually I want to stop doing that. So always be pleasant to everyone, whatever your own challenges are. This is what I would like to say.
Yeah, so I think that's a lovely reminder to always be kind to other people, because you don't know what they could be going through.
Exactly.
So, and that brings us to the end of today's episode. So we've had an enlightening session about eProfiler. So a huge thank you to our guest, Dr. Venga,
thank you
for sharing their invaluable insights and expertise. So it's clear that the dedication and innovation of teams like yours here at UM are paving the way for remarkable advancements. So for our listeners, if you are excited about this research as we are, you can follow Dr. Venga's research. So you can find more information and updates on the UM Research Bulletin about his projects and on UM Research social media channels. So thank you for tuning to the UM Research Podcast. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate and review us on YouTube. So your support helps us a lot to bring more stories and innovation to the audience. So until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and never stop learning. So I'm Farhanan, and this has been the UM Research Podcast.